everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOCReader, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to 26 in 26. But instead of making it a giant TBR for myself that I know I'm going to fail, I wanted to share 26 underrated Black authors whose books I think you should pick up next year. I really tried to pick out a good variety for you guys. I have Black authors from across the US, I have Black British authors, I have fantasy, I have literary fiction, I have horror. I tried to give you guys a good little mix, so hopefully you find some books to add to your TBR. I tried to do some from 2026 that are releasing, but also a lot from before because we need to get on our backlist. We always talk about older white books, but we never really talk about Black authors' backlist. We're usually just on to the next one, waiting for their next book. And so there are some in here that I sprinkled in that are from a couple of years ago that I still think you should check out. Coming in hot, we have On Sunday She Picked Flowers by Yaya Schofield. This one was sent to me by Saga Press. It releases next year. I am super excited about it. It's coming out in January. A lot of people have read the indie published version of this and told me that they really enjoyed it and they're curious to see what the changes are. It is a shorter read, which is part of the reason that I kind of got excited. When Judith Rice fled her childhood home, she thought she'd severed her abusive mother's hold on her. She didn't have a plan or a destination, just a desperate need to escape. Drawn to the forests of northern Georgia, Jude finds shelter in a house as haunted by its violent history as she is by her own. Jude embraces the eccentricities of the dilapidated house, soothing its ghosts and haunts, honoring its blood-soaked land. And over the next 13 years, Jude blossoms from her bitter beginnings into a wise woman, a healer. But her hard-won peace is threatened when an enigmatic woman shows up on her doorstep. The woman is beautiful but unsettling, captivating but uncanny. Ensnared by her desire for the stranger, Jude is caught off guard by brutal urges suddenly simmering beneath her skin. As the woman stirs up memories of her escape years ago, Jude must confront the calls of violence rooted in her bloodline. On Sunday, She Picked Flowers. The Conjuring of America, Mohos, Mermaids, Medicine, and 400 Years of Black Women's Magic by Lindsay Stewart. So this is a nonfiction one that goes through American history through the Black woman's lens. So it kind of jumps around into different time periods, into different pop cultural moments, into different spiritual practices. And I have recently started listening to it, and thus far it's been an interesting read. I think for people who are more interested in hoodoo, this is definitely a good one to pick up to kind of get an introduction. The Scorpion Queen by Mina Fears. So this was a YA fantasy that came out earlier this year, which I feel like just fell through the cracks a little bit. Deep within the Imperial Palace in Timbuktu, Aminata has suffered a devastating loss. The daughter of a prosperous salt merchant, Ami finds her life is cruelly overturned in a matter of months. At 16, she is disinherited, framed for a scandalous crime, and forced to serve Princess Mariama of Mali. Mariama's father, Emperor Suleiman, has created a series of impossible trials for his daughter's suitors. When they fail, he publicly boils them alive, littering Mariama's path to marriage with 99 corpses. At first, Ami's life at court is drudgery. The chores are difficult, the servants despise her, and Princess Mariama is prone to mood swings. But the more she learns about the princess's circumstances, the closer these two girls become. Ami and her intended cater plan to escape Timbuktu and make a new life far away from the shadow of death that has fallen upon the emperor's court. But Ami finds herself increasingly drawn to the princess in ways she doesn't understand. When a mysterious discovery forces her hand, she must choose between fleeing with the boy she loves and helping the princess to end the trials forever. Ami will need to draw on all her strength and courage to make the perilous journey through the desert to seek the aid of an exiled god in a final desperate attempt to take charge of her own destiny. The Scorpion Queen. The Dating Prohibition by Taj McCoy. So this is one that at the time of filming I have just started and I'm intrigued so far. It is like a romance that I haven't really read like a premise kind of like this recently. In this spicy new rom-com, an ambitious entrepreneur working to get her speakeasy supper club off the ground is pushed off balance when her childhood crush turns up hotter than ever, then tells her she's off limits. So this is supposed to be like brother's best friend, which I haven't read in a while. And I haven't read any books about anybody trying to start their own supper club. I do love different explorations of food and history in books, so that part definitely caught my attention. Now that Kendra's returned home, she can't help feeling like a kid again, back in her big brother's shadow, trying to get her restaurant off the ground while his new venture is flying high right out of the gate. It doesn't help that everyone refuses to stop calling her Kiki, the childhood nickname she loathes. The only bright spot is her longtime crush BJ. He's been her big brother's best friend for most of her life, and he's always been that cool, chill guy who was easy to talk to and made her laugh. Now he's looking at her like she's all grown up and there's nothing childish about the chemistry brewing between them. Even better, he takes her dreams seriously, and he's ready to help her make her supper club a reality. But then, BJ extinguishes the sparks flying between them, insisting nothing romantic can ever happen because she's off limits. As her investors fall through and her best chance at fulfilling her professional dreams points towards leaving home again for a fresh start, will BJ be ready for love before Kendra moves on, or will he sweep her off her feet when she least expects it? It's also set in the DMV area for people who are interested in more books set there. Call of the Dragon by Natasha Bowen. I read Skin of the Sea and I enjoyed it, so I'm intrigued to see what this book is going to give. Moremi has only ever known peace in the kingdom of Iwa thanks to the two dragon gods keeping an unspeakable evil at bay. But when the king tries to claim the god's power for himself, it all goes dreadfully wrong. The great dragons are injured and flee, and the world's darkest shadows are released. Suddenly, Kiwa's ancient tales of monsters become all too real. Yet as death comes for those around her, Moremi somehow finds herself magically connected to both dragon gods, a feat that should be impossible. Now Moremi is Kiwa's only hope for restoring the gods to full strength. But will Jagon, the mysterious prince, let her anywhere near the dragons? And how does her childhood friend Nox feel about it all? It may not matter in the end, because if Moremi fails in her quest, she risks the earth caving in and the sky crumbling down. So that is Call of the Dragon by Natasha Bowen. Stuck in the Country with You by Zuri Day. If you are interested in reading more cute small town romance, this is definitely one to pick up. 10 years ago, Genesis Washington made a very poor decision. At the time, it seemed great, fantastic, explosive. But the truth is, your one-night rebound should never be your younger brother's rival, and he definitely shouldn't be someone who allegedly only slept with you to gain the upper hand, even if the sex was amazing. Now Genesis is blindsided when the farm she's inherited just happens to be right next door to Jackson King, the regrettable one-night stand she's still painfully attracted to. This man has aged like the finest of wines, and what's worse, he's now a thoughtful and responsible father. Good thing Genesis has a long-distance boyfriend. Well, sort of. It's complicated. Jackson and his hotness should be easy enough to ignore, but when city girl Genesis discovers there's a serious learning curve to her humble new home, it's Jackson who's there to lend a very skilled helping hand. With every problem that arises, Jackson is seemingly making all the right moves, both on the farm and when things heat up behind closed doors. But surely that doesn't mean he's right for Genesis, does it? So if you are looking for more like rom-com types of books, you should definitely check this one out, especially because it's Harlequin, and Harlequin is back to producing movies, y'all. So we need to pick up these books by Black Harlequin authors and support so that we can get some more adaptations. He Burns by the River, The Dead Live in Sapo by Liam Moreau. When 16-year-old Roran's saintly and light-skinned older brother falls ill in 1963 Trinidad, people in his village Sapo blame Obia. Blaming dark sorcery, the same kind believed to have sunk the southern half of Sapo 30 years prior, is ludicrous to Roran. He's a boy of science and his brother is just ill, albeit the doctors aren't quite sure with what. But when Roran hears the cries of those who died in southern Sapo, he seeks out Father Bacedo, a man rumored to have eyes that can see the living and the dead. Father Bacedo explains to Roran that Roran has the eyes on him too, and only Roran can save his brother by communing with the spirits. He just needs to put his jealousy aside and risk the one thing most people in his village would never dare risk: having his soul trapped in Sapo's sunken side. So if you are looking for a book that is historical, that's slightly creepy, that is Caribbean, pick up this one, He Burns by the River. Speaking of Caribbean, we have When We Were Birds by Ayana Lloyd Bonwo. And this is one that I had read earlier this year. In the old house on a hill where the city meets the rainforest, Yehiti's mother is dying. She is leaving behind a legacy that now passes to Yehiti. One St. Bernard woman in every generation must shepherd the city's souls into the afterlife. But after years of suffering her mother's neglect and bitterness, Yehiti is looking for a way out. Raised in the countryside by a devout mother, Darwin has always abided by the ancient Rastafarian vow not to interact with the dead. He has never been to a funeral, much less seen a dead body. But when the only job he can find is grave digging, he must betray the life his mother built for him in order to provide for them both. Newly shorn of his dreadlocks and his past, and determined to prove himself, Darwin finds himself adrift in a city electric with possibility and danger. Yehiti and Darwin will meet inside the gates of Fidelis, an old and sprawling cemetery where the dead lie uneasy in their graves, and a reckoning with fate beckons them both. A masterwork of lush imagination and exuberant storytelling, When We Were Birds is a spellbinding and hopeful novel about inheritance, love, and loss, and love's seismic power to heal. This is When We Were Birds. So this is actually a short story collection that I really need to get to this year. And it is Convergence Problems by Wole Talabi. I've heard great things about their work, which is why I decided to pick this one up. I just wasn't really in a short story mood in 2025, but 2026 I'm going to be tackling more of my backlist, which includes some of these story collections sitting on my shelf. I did a standalone review of this one, but I would love to see more people read it. It is Blood Slaves by Marcus Redmond. Book 2 is coming out next year. It has a title, it has a release date. The only thing missing is the cover. After the way it ended, I'm very curious to see what direction the series goes in. In the province of Carolina, 1710, freedom seems unattainable for Willie, for his beloved Gertie, and for their unborn child. They live, suffer, and toil under their brutal master, Big Jim Barrow, whose grand plantation was built by the blood, sweat, and tears of the enslaved. To flee this hell on earth is to be hunted and killed, until one strange night Willie is offered a dark hope by Rafazi, an enigmatic slave with an irresistible and blood-killing path to liberation. Hailing from the kingdom of Ghana, Rafazi is the lone survivor of the Ramanga, an African vampire tribe rendered nearly extinct by plague. Rafazi has roamed the world for centuries with an undying desire to replenish the power that once defined his heritage. In Willie, Rafazi has found his first buildable subject to be turned and to help in a hungry revolt. And Willie desires nothing more than to free his people from vicious bondage, whatever it takes. One by one, as an army of blood slaves, thirsty for revenge, is gathered, the headstrong Gertie fears that no good can come from the vampiric legacy that courses through Rafazi's veins. Willie knows that that only evil can fight evil, and when the woman he loves stands between the reemergence of the Ramanga and the justified slaughter of the oppressors, Willie must make an irreversible decision. Only one thing is certain: on the Barrow plantation and beyond, blood will spill. Blood Slaves is not for the faint of heart, but it is captivating. The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope. If you are somebody who likes historical fantasy, this one is one you should pick up. It's also set in Washington, D.C., which not enough books are sent there exploring the Black community, so I thought that was pretty cool. Clara Johnson can talk to spirits, a gift that saved her during her darkest moments, now a curse that's left her in debt to the cunning spirit world. So when a powerful spirit offers her an opportunity to gain her freedom, Clara seizes the chance, no questions asked. The task? Steal a magic ring from the wealthiest woman in the district. Clara can't accomplish this daring heist alone. To pull off the impossible, she'll need the help of an unlikely team, from a handsome jazz musician able to hypnotize with a melody to an aging actor who can change his face. But as they race along DC's legendary Black Broadway, conflict in the spirit world begins to leak into the human one. An insidious mystery is unfolding, one that could cost Clara her life and change the fate of an entire city. I read this one back in 2023 when I was visiting DC, and I thought it was just such a captivating story. This is one that I haven't really heard anybody talk about since it released, which was interesting because it was like a read with Jenna pick. This is Black Candlewoman. It is by Diane Marie Brown. Generations of Montrose women, Augusta, Victoria, Willow, have lived together in their quaint two-story bungalow in California for years. They keep to themselves, never venture far from home, and their collection of tinctures and spells is an unspoken bond between them. But when 17-year-old Nikki Montrose brings home a boy for the first time, their quiet lives are thrown into disarray. For the other women have been withholding a secret from Nikki that will end her relationship before it's even begun. The decades-old family curse that any person they fall in love with dies. For each member of the household, revealing this truth to Nikki also means reckoning with their own past choices and mistakes. And as new questions about long-held family beliefs emerge, the women are set on a collision course dating back to a voodoo shop in 1950s New Orleans French Quarter, where a hidden story in a mysterious book may just hold the answers they seek in life and love. So this is Black Candlewoman. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. This Could Be Forever by Ebony Liddell. So a lot of people are familiar with her first book, Love Radio, but I was more interested in this book because Love Radio was like IP that she was hired to write, whereas this one is just like her first book doing her own thing. And also it features an interracial romance between a Black girl and an Indian boy, which is something you really don't see too often in books. A fateful encounter at a tattoo shop leads to a magical, cherry blossom-filled first date, but when Deja and Raja don't exchange numbers, they have to rely on fate to find each other again, as they fall deeply over the course of a summer. First apart, then together, will they be brave enough to admit to each other and their families that this love could be forever? Who's All Going to Die by Lisa Springer. Ariana is ready to get away from the chill of a New York winter, from the anxiety around her volleyball injury and what that means for her future. Thanks to her new friend Oakley, she can do just that. Oakley has offered Ariana an all-expenses-paid trip to her parents' wellness retreat on an island off Barbados. The dream resort is the perfect escape. At least it was before lifestyle guru Juniper Moon began introducing suspect activities like psychedelic mushroom tea ceremonies and bee venom facials. And as disturbing accidents start happening around the island and tension between the guests and staff builds, Ariana realizes she and her friends might not be in paradise after all. Now it's no longer a question of when, but if they make it home alive. I haven't read a YA thriller in a little bit, particularly one that was thrilling, so this intrigues me. Family Spirit by Diane McKinney Whetstone. I read this one earlier this year, like towards the beginning of fall. It's set in Philadelphia. Ayana has inherited the knowing gene that the Maces believe has been passed down to at least one girl child in every generation from as far back as they can trace. But her mother has tried to convince her that she is nothing like those weird Mace women. To keep the peace, Ayana lies to everyone. To the Maces, insisting she's never felt a knowing, to her mother about participating in the rituals, and to herself about her relationship with the man who helps her recover time and time again from the mania she experiences after seeing into the future. Ayana's Aunt Lil, banned from the Mace home decades ago after violating a sacred vow, has returned to Philadelphia for a medical procedure. She settles into the chaos of her brother's home where Ayana, a failing college senior, has also returned. After a harrowing premonition, Ayana must decide whether to deepen family schisms by enlisting her aunt's help, even as she learns the shocking details of Lil's breach. Meanwhile, Nona, the woman writing the novel, becomes more of a participant than a creator, as her own drama is definitely intersped throughout, as she too yields the power of the Mace family and its indomitable spirit. So this was one of those books that follows 3 different people. So if you're not a fan of 3 POVs, you might want to sit this one out. It was interesting because we're following the narrator who's writing this book. So you have a book within a book type of situation, but then we're also following Aunt Lil in the past and then seeing glimpses of her in the present. It is one of those generational dramas. So this is Family Spirit. Lamar Giles' Ruin Road. Cade Webster lives between worlds. He's a standout football star at the right school but lives in the wrong neighborhood, if you let his classmates tell it. Everywhere but home, people are afraid of him for one reason or another. Afraid he's too big, too fast, too ambitious, too black. Then one fateful night, to avoid a dangerous encounter with the police, he ducks into a pawn shop. An impulse purchase and misspoken desire change everything when Cade tells the shopkeeper he wishes people would stop acting so scared around him, and the wish is granted. At first, it feels like things have taken a turn for the better. But it's not just Cade that people no longer fear, it's everything. With Cade spreading this newfound courage wherever he goes, anything can happen. Fearless acts of violence begin to escalate in both his neighborhood and at school. With the right moves and brave friends, Cade might have one, and only one, chance to save all he loves. But at what cost? After all, the devil's in the details. So I have heard great things about this one, and I haven't heard a ton about it. And I was hoping to get to it this year. That doesn't seem likely, so 2026 it is. One Blood by Deneen Milner. And this is one that I've had on my shelf for a couple of years. I keep waiting until the right moment to pick it up. Raised by her beloved grandmother in a tension-filled post-segregation Virginia, Grace is barely a teenager when she loses her mama. Shell-shocked, she is shipped from up north to live with her formidably ambitious Aunt Hattie, a woman who firmly left behind her undesirable southern roots in pursuit of upward mobility. Thrust into the world of the black and socially ambitious, Grace finds herself trapped in a society of stifling respectability, fancy teas, and coveted debutante balls. Feeling like a fish out of water, Grace's only place of sweet comfort is with Dale, the smart, handsome son of one of the society's grand dames. However, when Dale gets caught up in a racial police killing, he is promptly shipped off to college, and Grace, newly pregnant, is left alone. Then, in the ultimate act of betrayal, Grace is deceived by Aunt Hattie, and her brand new baby girl is given up for adoption. Beautiful, intelligent, and fierce, Dolores, aka Lolo, has never had it easy. Her life has been riddled with pain and loss. Once she makes it up north, she puts aside her dream of being a model to do what she has to do to survive as a woman with little money and no mooring. Get married and have a family of her own. And she will tell lies and secrets to obtain it. Then Lolo does have it all. A doting husband, a beautiful son and daughter, and a lovely home. When secrets start to spill out and she and her family slowly begin to unravel, Lolo is willing to do whatever it takes to keep her dream intact and those she loves together. When Lolo's headstrong daughter Ray discovers that she is adopted, it is just one secret among others that her family is keeping, not out of a desire to deceive, but out of a determination to survive and protect. When Ray finds out that she is about to become a mother herself, she knows that there is an important reckoning that must be faced about herself and her two mothers. Poetic, potent, powerful, told with deep love and spanning from the Great Migration to the civil unrest of the 1960s to the quest for women's equality in the early 2000s, Janine Milner's beautifully wrought novel explores three women's intimate struggle with generational trauma and healing. So the reason why I hadn't started this one yet is because it is quite thick, but also it sounds like it's going to encompass a lot, which I love those stories that like start at the beginning of one time period and go all the way down. But you got to be in the right mindset and ready to read them because they can get quite heavy. So this is One Blood. The Marriage Narrative by Claire Kahn. Zinnia is an ambitious, successful businesswoman who is not about to wait around for her one true love. She turns her dating profile into a marriage merger proposal. Arrange a few strategic meetings, move in together, get married, all within 30 days. Her friends think it will never work until she meets Jordan, a near-perfect applicant with a big secret. Jordan's family has spent the last decade starring in a massively popular reality TV show about their lives. He's finally agreed to join the cast, but production wants him to marry an actress, his ex, in a romantic storyline to boost viewership. Convinced Zinnia is perfect for the role instead, Jordan proposes a mutually beneficial marriage agreement. She gets her business partner husband, and he gets to help his family on his own terms. Together they face strict schedules, wild plot twists, and behind-the-scenes hostilities, all while acting like besotted newlyweds, an intense performance that evolves into a relationship they never expected. As the line between reality and TV show blurs, Zinnia and Jordan must choose between a clean contract or a beautifully messy love story. So this sounds like it's going to be messy like her last book that I read by her, but I am intrigued to see where it goes because this is a concept I haven't really read too much. An Ocean Apart by Jill 2. Aboard the Desdemona, both love and lies are on the horizon. Eden Lowell has plenty to be frustrated about. In the flooded marshes of what was once Miami, each day is about survival. Even Eden's feelings for her best friend Henry are more complicated than they should be. Luckily, Eden knows exactly who to blame for her struggles. Cruisers, the elite who sail the world on massive ships instead of facing the environmental crimes they've committed on land. When Eden learns that a cruiser family is hosting a dating competition for their heir, Theo Desjardins, she seizes this opportunity. With the help of an anonymous anarchist, she'll infiltrate the competition, break Theo's heart, and then steal his money for the marshes. A perfect plan until she gets to know Theo, who's not only handsome, but also surprisingly kind. As Eden drifts deeper into the cruiser's world, the line separating truth and lies becomes murky. Torn between two identities, two loves, and two futures, will she choose the mission or her heart? So Jill is trying to bring back the YA dystopian era, which I'm not gonna lie, that wasn't my favorite era. I kind of gave up on YA then because it did get a little bit repetitive, but I am intrigued with the concept and seeing what she does here. Speaking of environmental devastation, we have Augmented, The Power to Grow, The Courage to Rebel by Kaneshi Odugo, which I had read earlier this year. This is also a dystopian novel. This is by a Black British author. In a near-future London where extreme weather has depleted plant life, 16-year-olds must surgically augment an ability to contribute to the new utopian society. Akaigo moves to a prestigious academy after the late discovery of her rare ability. She can project a vocal frequency that accelerates plant growth. As Akaigo learns to use her new skill and is chosen for an internship with the mayor, she begins to feel like she can change the world for the better. And it doesn't hurt that the mayor's gorgeous son June keeps flirting with her. But then, the Freestakers, an anti-enhancement group, warn Akaigo not to get augmented. Can she discover the truth of her ability, find the courage to rebel, and keep her power out of the hands of those wishing to control it? So if you're looking for more dystopian, you can pick up Augmented. This is by a UK publisher, but they also sell in the US. Speaking of UK, I have more British authors here. This is The Love Interest. It is by Helen Comerford. Jenna Ray lives in the quiet coastal town of Nine Trees. Unfortunately, Nine Trees is one of the towns named in the diviner's famous prophecies. Supposedly, a new hero will emerge there this year, an event usually accompanied by a catastrophic disaster. When disaster strikes, a new superhero does emerge, the handsome, charming Blaze. Unfortunately, Jenna has the misfortune of being the first person he saves, and in the eyes of the public, that means one thing. Jenna Ray has already been cast as the love interest. Jenna has no interest in being a helpless love interest, kidnapped by villains whenever they want Blaze's attention. In fact, she disapproves of the whole hero-industrial complex on principle. But then an association of villains offers her a chance to find new information about her mom, who has been missing for years. All she has to do is get close enough to Blaze to spy on him. The more time Jenna spends with Blaze, though, the harder it gets to lie to him. And the more she uncovers about the hero's association, the more she realizes that all of Nine Trees is in danger, and she might be the only one who can save it. So this is The Love Interest. King of Dead Things. This is by Nevin Holness. I've read this one twice now. I read it earlier this year, and I read it back in 2024. Yes. It felt like forever ago since I read it originally. But book 2 is coming out next year. Eli doesn't know who he is or who he came from. What he does know is that he can heal a wound with just a touch, and pluck magic from a soul like a petal from a flower. 3 years ago, he was found by his now best friends Sunny and Max, and there is nothing he wouldn't steal to survive and keep his new family together. Malcolm would do anything to forget where he comes from. Desperate to escape his estranged father's shadow and plagued with an inherited magic he doesn't fully understand, Malcolm has just one priority: save his mother no matter the cost. Malcolm and Eli's paths collide when Eli and his friends are sent to track down the fang of the leopard god Osebo, a deadly weapon that can eat magic. In a job filled with enigmatic Nine Nights and Caribbean legends, Malcolm and Eli must face their own demons as they race through the magical underbelly of London to retrieve the fang before an ancient and malevolent power comes back to life. Going Toe for Toe by Yara St. John. This one has been on my shelf for a little bit, and it is one that I do want to get to next year. After their no strings fling in paradise, Lyric and Devon never thought they'd see each other again until they did. Now they have very different ideas about what the future holds. What happens in Aruba stays in Aruba. That's what former ballerina Lyric Taylor keeps telling herself, at least. After all, now that the curtain has closed on her ballet career, and with the search for her biological parents stalling, she could use a little distraction. So when a logging mix-up leads to an unexpected fling in paradise with her sexy bunkmate Devon, Lyric takes the plunge. 7 days of sun, sand, and plenty of sizzle. And when it's time to go home, their no strings sick will come to an end, right? Single dad Devon Masters spent the last 8 years shielding his daughter Kiana from life's disappointments, and he's gotten pretty good at cutting pain off at the pass. But nothing can prepare him for this latest bombshell, discovering Lyric Taylor is Kiana's new dance teacher. What happened in Aruba seems to have followed them home, but they'll have to keep it under wraps for as long as they can. Soon, however, new feelings take hold and old wounds resurface. Will they finally find the rhythm they need to redefine what belonging truly means? So, for one, the cover intrigued me because of the ballerina. Like, you don't see a lot of depictions of black ballerinas in media in general. So, immediately for that, I'm just like, I have to read it, and I do love a good Harlequin book, so that made it a no-brainer. The Princess and the P.I. by Nikki Payne. I have not read a Nikki Payne book yet, so this would be my first one. I wasn't really interested in her other ones, to be honest, but this one intrigued me. Fiona A. is ready to set her plan in motion. To honor the anniversary of her brother's death, she's going to steal back his brilliant invention from the ruthless corporation that stole it and claimed it as their own. As a famed Reddit detective known as Princess_PI, Fiona has used her sleuthing skills to time every step down to the minute. But with one disastrous misstep, instead of getting justice, Fiona finds herself accused of murder. Maurice Bennett is no stranger to insomnia. These days, he's not losing sleep over the cases he's solving. He's running from the one he couldn't. He's been settling for small-time scandals that don't stir up the guilt he's buried. But when he spots Fiona A. at the center of a murder investigation, something clicks. And for the first time in a long while, Maurice feels that old spark of intrigue. However, Fiona is not the helpless damsel she appears to be. Sure, she needs Maurice's help to clear her name, but she's got an ask of her own. She wants a crash course in real-world detective work. Maurice isn't exactly thrilled. With every late-night stakeout and tension-filled interrogation, their partnership, rife with intense and unexpected chemistry, unravels a complex web of corporate crime and familial secrets. To bring the real killer to light, they'll need to trust each other, and that might be the most dangerous gamble of all. So I do love a good romantic suspense, and that's why I wanted to pick this one up. I've been avoiding spoilers and avoiding reviews so I can go in with fresh eyes and see how it is. An Unlikely Coven by A.M. Kavita. After 7 long years, Joan Greenwood is finally returning home. Unfortunately, her family totally forgot about it. Joan's homecoming is lukewarm at best, but it soon turns disastrous when news hits that someone has created a spell that can turn an ordinary human into a powerful witch, threatening the balance of the magical world and the Greenwood family's place at the top of it. When her best friend confesses that he has secretly, accidentally saved this human-turned-witch from an uncertain fate, Joan is thrust headfirst into a desperate race to undo the spell before it does permanent damage to its unwilling host. Soon Joan finds herself drawn deeper into the heart of the city's magic, into an uncertain alliance with a very attractive family rival, and far beyond the limits of everything she thought her own magic capable of. Welcome home, Joan Greenwood. So I definitely have not seen a lot of people talking about this one besides the author, and I know I was supposed to read it myself, and time kind of ran out of me. Moods changed. I was going to read in October. October got really crazy, and I am not ending 2025 without reading it. The Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery by Clarence A. Haynes. To be a client of Gwendolyn Montgomery, New York's most powerful publicist at Sublime Creative, is to be infused with a certain oomph, a mysterious glamour. She seems to have created their ideal life with her handsome new boyfriend, the perfect match. But Gwendolyn has a legion of long-buried secrets that could unravel everything. After a grisly, bizarre incident at the Brooklyn Museum, Gwendolyn begins to realize that something nefarious is happening tied directly to her past, right as Fonzie Harewood comes back into her world. Fonzie is a queer Latinx psychic from the South Bronx who's caught up in a love triangle with a ghost and his mortal ex. He's able to communicate with the dead, and he comes with a dire warning for Gwendolyn that the barrier between humans and spirits is weakening. Gwendolyn would prefer not to have anything to do with ghostly drama. Yet in order to get to the bottom of the spookiness derailing her life and threatening the world, she must face the demons she'd long left behind. The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery is a sensuous, funny, mystical adventure that will leave you spellbound as you keep the pages turning. So this is The Ghost of Gwendolyn Montgomery. I read it earlier this year. I did see a handful of people talk about it, but I would like to see more people talk about it. I'd love to discuss it with you guys as well when more of you read it. Okay, that was a lot of books. Let me know if any of them sound interesting to you, if any of them are being added to your TBR, if you've read any of them, if there's one you think I should prioritize, or if there's a book that I didn't mention that you really think I should read for 2026. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. And don't forget, I have my bookshop.org linked in the description box down below. If you are trying to buy any of these books from an indie bookstore, consider shopping through bookshop.org and using my link. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!